Welcome to Part 3 of our committee training series on Senate Bill 152, Foreign Funding Restrictions of Ballot Measures. This video will cover collecting affirmation statements. The new law requires committees to collect affirmation statements from contributors in certain instances. At a minimum, the committee must collect an affirmation statement anytime it receives a contribution over $2,000. The law lays out two different affirmation statements, depending on whether the contributor is an individual or another entity. If the contributor is an individual, he or she will need to attest that they are not a foreign national and have not accepted over $10,000 from a prohibited source in the past 2 years. If the contributor is an entity, it will need to attest that it is not a foreign national and has not accepted over $10,000 from a prohibited source in the past 4 years. However, as you probably remember from our previous video, your committee needs to attest on its campaign finance reports that the contributor associated with each contribution, regardless of amount, is not a foreign national and has not received over $10,000 from prohibited sources in the 4 years preceding the date of the contribution, for all contributors, even if they are individuals. So as you can see, you are required by law to attest to more information than you are required by law to collect. You may only be required to collect an affirmation from contributors giving more than $2,000, but even if a contributor gives less than $2,000, you still need to attest that they are not a foreign national and are not receiving funds from prohibited sources. You may only be required to ask contributors whether they received over $10,000 from prohibited sources in the past 2 years, but you still need to attest that they haven't received more than $10,000 in the past 4 years from prohibited sources. Remember, ultimately, you are going to have to complete this attestation statement on your campaign finance report, and you will also need to attest to the accuracy of the report. For that reason, the M.E.C recommends collecting this affirmation statement from every contributor every time you receive a contribution, regardless of amount or identity of the contributor. To make this process a little easier, you might want to consider creating an information card or form for contributors to complete when making a contribution. This way, you can receive the affirmation statement that you need to be in compliance with the new law. And, as a side benefit, your committee can also collect other information it needs to complete its report, such as the name, address, and employer or occupation. If your committee uses an online fundraising platform, like ActBlue or WinRed, or even PayPal or Venmo, make sure that the platform is capable of collecting this information from your contributors and that you're updating your committee's account to request this information. And lastly, as we mentioned on the last screen, the best practice is to collect attestation statements from all contributors, regardless of the amount they are giving or the identity of the contributor. On display is a screenshot of our sample contributor information card. In this example, we are collecting the contributor's basic information, such as name, address, employer or occupation, date received, amount, and whether the contribution is monetary or in kind. But it also includes that crucial attestation statement that you are now required to collect from contributors. This is just an example. You can personalize your affirmation collection method to meet your committee's needs. Remember, the M.E.C cannot give you legal advice. So while we cannot approve your committee's specific affirmation collection method, we can tell you what the law says you need to collect and what the law says you need to include on a campaign finance report. For your convenience, we will provide a link to the PDF version of this contributor information card in the description of this video. It includes all the necessary details required to accurately complete your campaign finance disclosure reports.